with a word of prayer. So if you would uncover and join me in a word of prayer, please. All hearts and minds clear, and we ask that Heavenly Father, you would be in the presence of this meeting where these patriots are gathered tonight, concerned about our country. Father, we ask that you would guide the hand of those in control of this country and our economy, those in command of our soldiers and our sailors, those in command of our police officers and our first responders. Father, we would ask a blessing on our soldiers and sailors and our first responders and those who are out serving right now. Father, we ask a blessing on those who wanted to be here but could not be, and we ask a special healing for those who have needs in this audience that you only know. We ask for healing in their lives. Father, we ask that you strengthen us and allow us to continue to fight for this country. We ask for a wonderful meeting, and we ask for traveling mercies on our way home. We ask these things in the name above every other name, Jesus Christ, and the group says, Amen. 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 So I'm going to ask Brad to come on up and lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, so real quick, y'all know me, I'm about energy. Y'all might notice I have on my Gadsden flag hat, okay? How many people know about the Gadsden flag? Okay. So I want to set the tone for the meeting with something that I found out, and this is the reason why I have this flag. And I think right now, our country, our leaders, and if you're running for office in this room tonight, you need to hear this. Very few people know that he wrote this, Benjamin Franklin wrote this under the pseudonym of the American Guesser. And this was published in the Pennsylvania Journal in December of 1775. And he posed as someone who had nothing to do with public affairs. And I quote Benjamin Franklin here about this snake on my hat. I recollect that her eye excelled in brightness, that of any other animal, and that she has no eyelids. She may therefore be esteemed an emblem of vigilance. She never begins an attack, nor once engaged ever surrenders. She is therefore an emblem of magnanimity, and an emblem of true courage. As if anxious to prevent all pretensions of quarreling with her, the weapons which nature has furnished her, she conceals in the roof of her mouth, so that to those who are unacquainted with her, she appears to be the most defenseless animal. And even when those weapons are shown and extended for her defense, they appear weak and contemptible. But their wounds, however small, are decisive and fatal. Conscious of this, she never wounds till she has generously given notice, even to her enemy, and cautioned him against the danger of treading upon her. And I ask you, sir, was I wrong in thinking that this a picture of the temper and conduct of America? So tonight, as we go through this, we have some candidates that are here. I want us to remember what we are doing here, the freedom that we're trying to save and to protect and to defend, ladies and gentlemen. So with that said, what we got? Mike swap.
Yeah, switching out this.
You broke it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mike said, don't tread on me.
It was tread on.
There we go. But with that said, ladies and gentlemen, that is the spirit that I want us to be in and that I think we need to have as a party going forward. That we are in a fight, not hyperbolically, a very fight for the soul of our country. So as you hear from these candidates tonight, do so with the intention of going back to inform your friends, your families, your neighbors, your co-workers, that we're in a fight for the very life of our country and we need to be engaged and involved, all right? All right, we agree? All right, we're gonna, but we got Matt, so we go in congressional candidate first. Who we got first coming up? Mike, I don't have the thing. Roger Farina, where you at, Brother Roger? Come on up here for district chair, come on up. 2 minutes, who's on time?
McNanty said I got 15 seconds, but like AJ Dowd, you give me the floor, I ain't gonna leave it. Yes, I am running for chair for District 13. We're assembling a team. Michael's gonna be the vice chair, and I just put it simply this. I want to build our district into something that the 13 other districts around the state look at and go, wow, look what 13 did. And they're going to want to emulate what we do. And we're going to do that by helping the county chairs build their precincts out, develop their precincts. Doing that through this, at the same time, being a liaison between the state, the county, and down to the precincts.
Thank you so much, Ryan.
All right, district chairs, district conventions are coming up. Just remember, your district person gets to appoint people to plan of organizations and other committees, so be mindful of the control of that. We got Fred Von Kennon, North Carolina House District 13. Let's go.
Oh, let me just talk. Can you guys hear me fine?
Yep.
No, I'm seeing some notes, so let me try it here. How about this? I don't think this is on.
You gotta get closer to
How about
it.
this?
There we go.
Great, I'm gonna be stuck. Don't start my time. All right. I'll take it. My name is Fred Von Cannon. I'm a husband, a dad, a grandfather, an undeserved child of God, conservative, social and physical conservative, veteran, had the honor of serving in the Navy for 8 years with Ronald Reagan as my commander-in-chief. Couldn't have asked for a better situation. I'm a businessman. We've got a few businesses. We have over 100 employees in the district. I know what it's like to make payroll and to understand what government can do to help, and most of that is getting out of the way. So we are in serious times. We need serious people who understand the assignment and that are willing to stand up when things get rough. There's a lot of people in Washington that are there. I'm not even sure why. Maybe it's fun, maybe the grift, maybe the power, maybe the adoration, I don't know. If I get there, if I'm blessed to get the votes to get there, I can tell you I will be there to serve. No other reason. So we have way too many people who are up there for the wrong reasons. Pick your candidates wisely. Pick people who are going to go there and serve you instead of being served. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
All right, next on the list, what we got? Brad Knott, candidate for NC13. Where you at, Brad?
All right, Mike, who's keeping my time?
You'll see.
Right there, all right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much for having us here. I've made the comment several times that in Southern Wake County, we don't have barbecue this good. So it's been wonderful being here. A little bit about me. I am a Christian. I'm a former federal prosecutor. I'm a husband to my wife, Joanna, and we have 2 daughters. And I agree with much of what Fred said, that this is an interesting time. It's a perilous time. Each candidate has a unique vantage point from which we're coming from. As a federal prosecutor, I had a very unique vantage point looking at how predominantly the open border system that has been cultivated truly the last 30 years, but has been exacerbated in the last 3 years, is touching every part of our life. I saw it in our district, I saw it in our state, and I saw it all across our country. And the chief responsibility of the federal government is to keep its citizens safe. And with the open border policies that we have all seen the effects of, that responsibility has been neglected and it cannot be fulfilled. I saw it firsthand on the local level, I saw it on the federal level, I saw it regionally, and as a candidate for Congress, my main issue is border security and safety. We cannot support local law enforcement, we cannot support federal law enforcement, we can't support local communities throughout this district if we don't secure the border and have the backs of local law enforcement. That's my primary issue. I'm happy to talk further after this event. Thank you so much.
For the record, I was watching one of the congressional hearings on border security, and Mayorkas was up there, and Senator Kennedy asked him, he said, how many Hamas members got into the United States? And I don't know if y'all know anything about Mayorkas, but the man filibusters like nobody on the planet and never got to the answer. So we don't know how many people are at that southern border are getting through there. It's very important. We got Kenny Shue coming up, candidate for District 13.
Hi all, I'm Kenny Shue, and I'm your proven conservative fighter in Congress. When Harvard and UNC discriminated against Asian American applicants and sacrificed merit-based admissions for a culture of victimhood, I led the fight against their admissions policies, and this year in the Supreme Court, we won. And as your candidate in Congress, I am going to eliminate CRT and DEI in the schools by defunding their relative agencies. Joe Biden did a summit with China yesterday actually, where they made an agreement. Out of all of the things that America and China are disagreeing on, somehow they made an agreement to do one thing: fight climate change. I will say to Joe Biden, I will say to China, and I will call out their human rights abuses in Xinjiang province, their currency manipulation against Americans, bankrupting American manufacturers, and I will stand with Taiwan. As the child of legal immigrants, I recognize how much open borders and illegal immigration has hurt our country. It's hurt our public schools. Teachers have to compromise their standards because kids come in here and they don't know English and they aren't taught to learn English. I will take on illegal immigration and I will stop the border by building the wall and removing the fence. I'm Kenny Shue. I'm your proven conservative fighter, and I want to serve you in Congress. Thank you so much.
For the record, when I hear them say fight climate change, I always ask, like, how do you fight the weather? Like, how do you fight the weather? Like, what do you do to fight the... DeVan Barber, come on up. Congress 13, come on.
Big D. Big D.
Yeah, I gotta pull this up a little bit. Good evening.
Good evening.
My name's DeVan Barber, and I'm not from Wake County. It's great to be here tonight. It's always good to be in Granville County. Granville County holds a special place in my heart. I'm DeVan Barber. I live in Johnston County with my beautiful wife and our two, as we say, she's hotter than bacon frying in a pan, and our two kids, an 8-year-old daughter and a 30-year-old son. I'm a Christian, I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a business owner, and I'm a Shriner clown. Why is that important? Because Granville County is important to me because this keychain and the table at the end of my desk were built by children at the Masonic Home for Children right here in Oxford. And I understand how important Oxford and Granville County is to this community, not only here, but regionally, and the service that provides to this region. I want to be your congressman for a multitude of reasons. Number one, I understand we have to secure the border. We have to secure the border for a myriad of reasons, notwithstanding national security. We've got to cut spending. Inflation's through the roof, and it's never going to come back down unless you get back to the basic. It ain't what you make, it's what you spend. You've got to cut spending. And you've got to support and fund our military and our soldiers to the max. The only way to have a safe globe is to have a strong United States military and a strong Republican commander-in-chief in the White House.
Amen.
But moreover, I want to be your congressman because this is a rural district and we need a rural congressman. And I understand the importance of the national issues, but I also understand the importance of national issues in rural communities like the one I live in. I understand how trade, 15 seconds? I understand how trade can decimate communities. I understand how important it is for volunteer firemen in rural districts to have access to the retirement systems. And I understand how important it is to make sure that rural counties can thrive economically, just like the Wake County ones can. My name's DeVan Barber, not the car, not the truck, but DeVan. And
All right, ladies and gentlemen, coming to represent District 1, we've got Colonel Lori Bookout. Come on up, Colonel Lori.
Okay, I love you guys, but you really mangled the spelling of my last name, but I'm sure y'all figured that out. It's got an H in the last name, and I'm sure you can handle that.
I'll fix it.
Hey, all right, guys, first off, I want to thank you all. We're in the fight of our lives, and a lot of folks don't know that. America is at a crossroads right now, and there are many folks who are blind to that, and you all here in this room tonight understand that, and the fact that you're coming here to participate in this representative republic is an astonishing thing. Thank you all. So, I am a retired colonel. I am a former business person. I did 26 years in the Army. I'm a third-generation American. My parents grew up in the Depression. They served in World War II. They're both combat veterans, and to the day my dad died, he was missing one tooth out of his whole mouth at the age of 95, and that was the one knocked out by a POW guard in Germany in World War II. He left that tooth, but he escaped that fourth time. So that's how I grew up. That's what my family is. We have service going way back, and that's why I want to serve you. I retired out of the Pentagon after 2 combat tours. That's the punishment you get for doing a good job and bringing everyone home alive. And the Pentagon was worse than anything else. But I got my old neighbor up there is like, hell yeah, that's right it is. But I want to tell you all, oh my God, I never. But I want to tell you all that I learned how to work with Congress in that job. I controlled billions in military spending. I learned about budgets. I learned about testifying between the Armed Services Committee and the Intelligence Committee and Appropriations Committee. I would not be walking in as your average freshman. I'll be walking in knowing what's up in store. I've got some power. I've got some juice to make things happen up there, and I'm going to put it to work for you all. We need to close the border. We need to clean up the economy. We got to stop the absolutely insane spending. We got to tear up Joe Biden's checkbook and put that money back in your pockets. We need to defend farmers. I'm out there talking to somebody who's got who's got $1 million combine, and he's paying $20,000 extra a year for fuel and lubricants and maintenance on this combine that he needs to make a living. So I'm here for you. I'm ready, I'm smart, I'm ready to serve you and raise some hell and take this country back. Thank you all.
There's a lot of veterans running, y'all, across the state. There's a lot of veterans running. John Hardister running for Commissioner of Labor. Come on up.
It's great to be back in Granville County with you all. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for having me. So I'm from Guilford County. I serve in the House of Representatives. I've been there serving for over 10 years, and no, I don't dye my hair gray. I thought it would turn gray by now, especially after dealing with Governor Cooper for the last several years. But here's the thing. He has set a record for how many bills he's vetoed, but we've set a record for how many we've overridden, thanks to you all for giving us a supermajority. So it's been an honor to serve. I'm proud of my record. I have a proven conservative track record. I'd like to take those skills, put them to work for you as your next labor commissioner. What I'm most proud of, though, is the work that I've done in the private sector, because that's where my heart is. Why am I wearing jeans and t-shirt? Because I'm running for labor commissioner. What does labor do? Well, believe it or not, it's more than just a picture in the elevator, although that's a big part of it. The department does inspections also for escalators, mines, boilers, quarries, amusement rights, H2A housing. It enforces E-Verify, settles wage and labor disputes. Another thing that I'm very passionate about is what we really need to focus on education, and that's trade skills, right? I'm talking about electrical, plumbing, HVAC, truck drivers, things like that. We've got to get back to those jobs if we want to grow and strengthen our economy. And as labor commissioner, that's something I'm really going to push as hard as I possibly can. Another thing too, a lot of people don't know this, is that the Labor Department is actually a vanguard against the federal government when they overstep their authority, which they have a tendency to do, something like the Green New Deal or ESG, but the best example is probably the vaccine mandate that was really unconstitutional. Now, current Commissioner Josh Dobson said, no thanks, we're not going to do that. Under my administration, same thing, we're not going to do that. The federal government comes, they think they know better than we do. Sorry, wrong, you do not. And we're going to stand for the 10th Amendment. We try to come up with a campaign slogan that was catchy. The best I could come up with is, my name's John Hardister, coming to an elevator near you. That's all I got, unless y'all have a better idea. It would be an honor to serve. If you nominate me, I'm gonna work hard to win. And if elected, I'll put my heart and soul into the job. Thank y'all for having me. God bless you. God bless Great State.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, John Hardister running auditor. Dingy, come on up, auditor. Clap it up, folks.
By a show of hands, who in here is a parent or a grandparent? Well, can somebody here tell me why is it that in elementary schools across the state of North Carolina today, there are pornography books being peddled to your children and grandchildren? Well, my name is Charles Dingy. I'm running to be your next state auditor, and I'm going to use this office as the tool that it is meant to be to audit every single school district to find out where this money is coming from so we can cut it off. There is no reason pornography should be peddled to elementary students. Now, many of you may have never heard of the state auditor's office, and that's okay. You'd be in good company. I've been to over 75 counties, and most people I talk to have never heard of this office. But it is the only one in the state of North Carolina that can find out where government is wasting your money and hold them accountable. And I plan to do just that. A little bit about me. I am actually the former chairman for the 13th Congressional District that we're all in here now. I'm the former vice chairman for the Wake County Republican Party, and I'm also the North Carolina Young Republican Man of the Year for 2022. And I got that award for the passion and energy that I have brought to this Republican Party in beating Democrats up and down the ballot. And when you elect me to be your next North Carolina state auditor, I'm going to do just that and take this position for a Republican for only the second time in 146 years. Now, I'm a small business owner with a professional background in banking, and I'm going to take that same knowledge and skill set to lead the state auditor's office of over 160 people to do one thing and one thing and only. That is to provide complete transparency and accountability for every penny of your money in the state of North Carolina. Now, I'll leave you all with this. You can learn more about me at charlesdingy.com. I'm Charles Dingy, and I'll be stingy with your money.
Stingy, I love it. Yeah, AJ down, where you at? AJ for auditor, come on out.
So glad to see so many of my friends here in Granville County. I'll make it very short and sweet. As many of you know, we've been here. Thank you, Robert. I was talking earlier with Deputy Vance Johnson, who I had the privilege of being the moderator during your primary debate when you ran for sheriff. And I just want to tell you a little bit of the conversation that we had. Said that a lot of people don't realize in this state that the auditor is not an accounting job. What are we talking about? It's internal affairs of our state. That means oversight of operations, oversight of misconduct, malfeasance, what employees are doing. I have a proven history as your lottery commissioner, of stopping wasteful spending in government and returning millions back to education through the lottery when I was commissioner. I just want to say thank you very much for the great conversation we have. I'm the only police officer that is running. I'm the only person that is also an MBA and has run a multi-billion-dollar budget. So need to vote for AJ, Dowd. Glad to see you here, PJ, from Person County. It's so great to see you again. It's been that long. But in either case, we need to get out, be together. Let's stop corruption. Vote for AJ. Thanks, Vance, for making it. And I'll leave you with this one thought. When was the last time that anybody in this room heard Beth Woods, our current auditor, bringing charges against somebody for corruption? Never in her whole term. I will tell you the last two incidences real quick, Brad, and I'll wrap it up for you. Last two incidences were East Laurinburg and Robbinsville, where the state had to take away the charter because the town manager, at least in East Laurinburg, was writing checks out to himself and then signing the back of them and cashing them. You know who found that malfeasance? Was Dale Folwell. Dale Folwell had to beg. Yeah, let's give Dale a hand. Dale had to beg Beth Woods to create an investigation on that. Not on my watch, not on his watch as a police officer. If anybody knows what police officers do, we get to the root of the problem and we make arrests. God bless you, and it's great to be back in Granville.
All right, before we bring Chad up, I'm gonna take just 10 seconds of personal privilege and let y'all know something that they're gonna find out in the 12th district tomorrow.
10 seconds.
10 seconds, you ready?
Go.
The hat lady's gotta go. We're voting, I'm gonna be running in the 12th district against Alma Adams. We're gonna be announcing it tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's a D plus 6 million district. I know that. It's like D plus 6 million. But what happens when we move the needle in Charlotte 45% for our governor's race and our president's race? So I'm gonna be back to talk to y'all when we announce the campaign, but let's bring up Chad, y'all past chairman, to introduce our guest speaker. We have Chad. Where Chad go? There you go.
Come on down, Chad.
Come on down,
Come
Chad.
on down, Chad. Your name's on the board, Chad.
Yeah, I guess. You're on the slideshow.
All right, who wants jokes?
Yes, Joe.
I don't have
Hold
any.
on, 15 seconds.
Yes, joke time.
I don't have any jokes, but I did want to introduce, Dale Folwell, and all I gotta say is, no longer am I your chairman, which means I'm not bound by the rules of the Republican Party where I can't endorse a candidate or, back a candidate, and, all I gotta say is, Dale, yeah. Come on, Dale.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chad.
He's got props.
Always.
Always.
Dale, yeah.
Yeah.
Can y'all say that one time?
Carrot top. Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Carrot top.
It's really great to be with you. It's been an unbelievable day for me. Started about 4:45 this morning and chaired a couple of board meetings over the last few days. 14 hours of board meetings this week. The reason is that I'm applying for a job to be the next governor of North Carolina, but the first job is to do the job the voters gave you to start with, and that is to be the keeper of your public purse.
Yeah.
I'm wearing a lapel pin today that has NC on it. That stands for Nothing Compares. I wouldn't trade places with any other state treasurer in the United States based on some things I'm getting ready to tell you. Those of you who are from Raleigh have probably walked through the Oakwood Cemetery from time to time. And it's a great cemetery walk. When you go through the Oakwood Cemetery, you'll see the gravestone of Coach Jim Valvano. And Gary, on his headstone, it literally says every day you're supposed to laugh a little, cry a little, think a little. And you may do that over the next few minutes when you hear my remarks. Also, you'll also find the headstone of former Senator Jesse Helms, who, by the way, never led a poll and never lost an election. And I got a call Monday, days are flying by for those of you in the audience who are statewide candidates. I got a call Monday from a gentleman who had heard me speak in Statesville on Saturday. I'd never met the gentleman, and he called me, he said, I used to work for Jesse Helms. And I want to tell you, I could never speak for him and his family, but if Jesse Helms were alive today, that he would vote for you. Because he didn't always tell people what they wanted to hear, but he always told them the truth, and that's what I've done as the keeper of your public purse.
Hell yeah.
I used to say, if you want to know why I act the way I do, Cynthia, who some of you have met, is not here tonight, but she's corrected me. She said, I knew you in 1986, Kenny, and you acted that way then. You don't remember 86, but some of those people. Yeah.
I don't need.
Yeah. But if you want to know why I talk the way I talk and say the things I say, to Vance, who's sitting in this room, who's one of our local employees, for the people who teach, who protect, or otherwise serve in this state, behind their faith and behind their family and behind their, Roger, there's my drink right there. Thank you very much. Behind their faith and behind their family and behind their personal health, the two most important things in their life are the safety and security of their state and local pension plan and the state health plan. And let me tell you, as the first Republican treasurer since President Ulysses S. Grant, I'm the first Republican treasurer in North Carolina since President Grant. And I say that because unlike a few years ago, I think the Republican Party is in trouble right now. I think it's a mess. As a matter of fact, I'm going to ask for a show of hands. How many of you have heard people like me say, this is the most important election of your lifetime? But I doubt any of you have heard anybody say what I'm getting ready to say to you, which is an admonition. I believe that this is the last opportunity in North Carolina to elect a Republican governor in my lifetime. And I don't say that emotionally, I don't say that politically, I say it mathematically. The reason is that the Republican Party is not the number one party, not the number two party, but the number three party in North Carolina. And we've been a little bit hypnotized by supermajorities in the Senate, supermajorities in the House, control of the Court of Appeals and the Supreme Court. But the fact is that we've only had 3 Republican governors in the last 30 years. Now I'm going to show you a map here that sort of shows you what I'm talking about. This is the rise of the independent, unaffiliated parties in North Carolina over the last 50 years. As a matter of fact, I'm sure somebody will fact check me on this, probably in the last 30 days, Devan, that the number of unaffiliated new voters exceeds the number of Democrat and Republican new voters combined. Now I'm showing this to you because you won't believe what I'm getting ready to say. This is my heat map from 2016. In 2016, when I was elected to be the first Republican treasurer since Ulysses S. Grant, I got more votes than the President of the United States, even though I was outspent 4-1. So we're going to talk about polling in just a minute, but my point of showing you this graph is if you look way over here, some of our statewide candidates know where this is. This is Chowan County. Chowan County just elected an unaffiliated clerk of court. If you look way over here, west of Asheville, you see how red that is? We just elected an unaffiliated sheriff. Yes. I wrote a thank you note, congratulatory note this year to every new senator, every new House member, every new clerk of court, register of deed, and sheriff. And people always say you're getting too much math at this time of night. But the reason I'm saying this is that the answer to our problems are mathematical. I wrote 87 thank you notes to people last year, who got less than 40% of the vote. How can you win a general election with less than 40% of the vote? Because there's 3 people on the ballot. Now, last Tuesday was a horrible day for Republicans in North Carolina. You all know where Huntersville is, north of Lake Norman, near Iredell County, near conservative Statesville, Iredell. Every Republican running for city council and mayor in Huntersville was defeated in Huntersville. So I'm saying this to you with a high level of passion because I could sit here and be the keeper of your public purse, but the fact is there's more to fix. And what needs to be fixed is the Republican Party. We need a governor who can be the leader of the Republican Party, who can raise the floor of the Republican Party, who can explain conservatism without offending people, and focus on courage and not rage. I was having a pretty bad day about 8 or 9 weeks ago. And I say this to people in this room who are doing everything they can in their lives just to get by. It was a particularly bad week because it was the 1-year anniversary of the murder of Wake County Deputy Ned Byrd. And there's those of you who have never seen this, you need to watch this because when you're as old as I am, you've been to a lot of funerals. But I've never seen what I saw at his funeral, and that is Sasha, his canine dog, who was locked up in the back of his patrol car when he was murdered, jump up on the casket to say goodbye. Because this is the first time Sasha had been near Deputy Byrd since the night he was murdered. A canine jumps up on the casket during the service to say goodbye. It was a doubly bad week because when you're the keeper of the public purse, and I'm sorry, I'm just talking from the heart tonight. I don't have any scripts, I don't have anything in my ear telling me what to tell you. But when you're the keeper of the public purse, you have to realize that people don't call the treasurer's office to book a cruise. They call the treasurer's office because they've had a life-changing event. Most of these life-changing events are blessings. You get a job with the state or local government. You retire. You get married. You sometimes get divorced. You have children. You have to put on the state health plan. Those children age out. You lose a spouse. Or you're killed in the line of duty. And it's not just first responders. It's corrections officers like the gentleman who was just minding his own business in Person County 2 months ago, right west of here. Minding his own business at 6:30 in the morning, a dark morning, came around a curve on a 2-lane road. And there was a family literally walking in the middle of the street at 6:30 in the morning. He tried to dodge him. He hit the 17-year-old kid. Obviously pulled off immediately, was calling 911, trying to save this 17-year-old's life. When the teenager's father pulled out a pistol and murdered our corrections officer. And then stole our truck. My point of telling you that is that as I was going through all that all week, I was attending Springfield Friends, where we go to church in High Point. Our church is near LA, North Carolina. All the statewide candidates in here know that LA stands for Lower Archdale. Some would say it stands for Lower Andrews, but Lower Archdale. And Cynthia was in there practicing for the music, and I was walking down in the cemetery where the Reddicks and the Folwells and the Robinses and the Scotts. I was walking down through the cemetery, and the only thing I could remember is this. God tells us when we're faced with uncertainty and anxiety, our only choice is to give more. Now there's some in this room like Vance and folks like me, been racing motorcycles 47 years. We've pulled things with cars, things that are in trailers, things that probably shouldn't be pulled in trailers, that should be strapped down in trailers. Some of you know what I'm talking about. Don't raise your hand on this one. PJ, but if you've ever been in a high-speed wobble with a trailer behind you, it's the most unnatural thing in the world. The only way to get out of it is to speed up. Right, Vance? It's the most unnatural thing in the world when something is swapping ends on you and trying to turn your vehicle over. The most unnatural thing in the world, Roger, is to push on the gas and give more. And that's what this party has to do, starting now. We've got to learn how to give more. We've got to learn how to explain conservatism without offending people. And not just explain it, but we have to govern conservatively. I show this map to you because it is a reminder that the next governor of North Carolina is going to be a Republican. It's going to be me. The reason is, when you look at this heat map, it's really easy for your eyes to focus on the red, but I want you to focus on the green. The green represents where I outvoted President Trump by 3 to 6 percentage points in the 5 most populous counties in North Carolina. In the last 2 presidential elections, Josh Stein and I have both received 10 million votes. I mean, in those races, 10 million votes. He has won by a collective 33,000 votes after outspending his opponents 4-1. I got outspent 4-1 and beat my opponents by 586,000 votes. Thank you. And doing that was the result of receiving every newspaper endorsement in North Carolina. You've heard of the Charlotte Observer, but you may have not have heard of the Charlotte Post. The Charlotte Post is the black-owned newspaper in Charlotte, and they have a subsidiary in Durham. The headline in the Charlotte Post was this. I'm gonna call you Colonel, if that's okay. Did I demote you? I'm gonna call you Colonel. Okay.
That's fine with me.
Okay.
It is, actually.
So, the headline in the Charlotte Post, Colonel, was, we endorse every statewide Democrat with one exception. That one exception was me. Because I went into the Charlotte Post And I explained to them that based on where I was born, how I look, that there's no way in heck that they can endorse me unless they really care about the people who advertise in this newspaper, which they're struggling with, and the people who read this newspaper who are also struggling. If you care about those people, and you care about the fact that as the keeper of the public purse, it's not about Republicans and Democrats not affiliated, it's about the green, Green. So they endorsed me. Every major newspaper in North Carolina, the Dunn Daily Herald, is that right? I got so many things in my mind. The Dunn Daily Record, I'm told by the owner, has only endorsed 2 people since 1963. And I was one of the 2. Yes. So my point of saying that to you is that when you can explain conservatism, and the root word of conservatism is to conserve. The root word of liberal is to liberate. The root word of governor is to govern. These are all verbs. And in this day and time when people are so exhausted with things coming at them in a way they never expected, what they want is someone who will attack problems and not attack people. 3 weeks ago, I was very honored by an article that came out in the governing magazine. And what's so interesting about this article is that I'd never interviewed with the governing magazine. Washington, D.C. needs to look to these 3 adults in America to figure out how to govern. I was one of the 3. The governor of Iowa, the governor of Tennessee, and myself. Thank you. My point of saying that to you is that people may not always like what I have to say or how I say it, but they need to know that God gave me the vision to see what needs to be seen, the humility to listen for what needs to be heard, and the courage, not the rage, the courage. See, the word rage is inside the word courage. And Cynthia reminded me that the C-O-U-R means from the heart. We cannot be a party of hate, because when you start from a position of hate, you never run out of things to complain about, and you never run out of things to say. We have got to be the party of courage, because the majority of people in this state, Chad, are conservative in some way, shape, or form. Now, you just stop me when it's ready for me to sit down or to take questions, but my example is this, and some of you have heard this. Now, Bruegger's Bagels used to offer a bottomless cup card. Now, there's a little bit of problem there because there's one that I can walk to from our house in Winston-Salem on Stratford Road. There's one near where our son and daughter went to school. There's one on Wade Avenue as you come into Raleigh. There's one on Glenwood Avenue near the General Assembly. And there's one on Hillsborough Street near the GOP. So Vance, if you offer a conservative the opportunity to have all the hot chocolate, all the coffee, all the soda that they can consume for a year for $150, and you got those locations, you're gonna lose money. So I would fill up my Diet Coke in Winston-Salem, Roger. I'd drive to Raleigh. I went into the Bruegger's Bagels on Hillsborough, and I said, bottomless cup card, please, Diet Coke, no ice. And the person who was serving me did not look like me. Had paint all over him and had different hair than I do. And by the way, if anybody looks at my haircut, I want to tell you here and now, it cost a lot to look this cheap. I just said that for you. Dale, yeah. Dale, yeah.
No fashionista.
Yeah. So I handed this person my cup, and he said, why do you bring that cup back in here? And I said, because I'm a conservative. His body language flipped negative, just like that. And he said, what does that have to do with anything? I said, because the root word of conservative is to conserve. There's nothing wrong with this cup, and I would like for you to fill it up. His body language changed completely the other direction, PJ. And he said, you know what? I'm conservative in some parts of my life. So I don't care if you turn your hot water heater down when you leave on vacation. You turn your thermostat down when you go to work during the winter. If you don't raise your hand on this one, if you take, when that toothpaste is empty, you take a pair of scissors and you cut it in two. Oh, PJ. And you cut that in two and you get that last piece of toothpaste out of there. I don't care what level of conservative you are, we have a responsibility as a Republican Party to explain conservatism without offending people. And the governor is the leader of the Republican Party. And there's several things that previous governors, mistakes they've made. And I talked to former Governor Corey this morning. One is they forgot about the grassroots.
That's us.
Yes. The fact is that as your next governor, I am going to have a legislative agenda with the grassroots.
Dale, yeah.
Dale, yeah.
Where does the legislative agenda start? It starts with the Constitution of North Carolina and this. And if you don't like what's in this, which is our plan of organization, then change it.
Dale, yeah.
Then vote for me so I can go fix it.
But my point of holding this up is that the grassroots are so frustrated because we're dealing with stuff that we never thought we'd be dealing with supermajorities. And as your governor, I'm going to commit to coming to every county at least once a year and talk about what the governor's agenda is going to be with the grassroots Republican clubs in North Carolina. Now, I was talking to Vance a little bit earlier because I get a lot of criticisms. But the major criticism I get is that you're doing such a good job as the treasurer. Why do you want to give that up? Especially when you're so far behind in the polls. I want to show you this graph. I'm not behind in the polls. And for people in here who may have another choice for the governor, maybe I can be your second choice. But this is a poll from the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Women's Club debate. What's so interesting about this poll is that they made people vote when they walked in, and then they had people vote when they walked out. Mark Robinson had 62% on this poll when they walked in. He had 15% when they walked out.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
You know why? Because he didn't show up. He didn't show up for this debate. He didn't show up for the Wake County debate. He's never showed up for a community college board meeting. If this offends some people, I'm going to say what's on my heart. He's been the most absent lieutenant governor of my lifetime. If you look at the North Carolina Constitution, it says the number one responsibility of the lieutenant governor is to preside over the Senate. His attendance rate this year is 6%. 6% attendance rate presiding over the Senate. 0 attendance rate being at the community college board meetings, which I'll be at tomorrow. My point of saying that to you, how can you expect people to hire you for a different job when you haven't showed up for the job they gave you already? Now, if some people in this room thinks that this violates the 11th commandment of Ronald Reagan, I'm telling you, I'm sitting in this race, and I'm staying in this race, and I'm filing for governor to keep the Republican Party going in North Carolina so that we can have a next Republican governor. I spoke to this group in Iredell County. I sort of got off track a little bit, as I sometimes do. I used to stutter, so when anybody in this room has ever stuttered, you know that your mind works a little differently than other people. And this person called me on Monday. Have I already told this story? Okay. This person calls me on Monday and said he worked for Jesse Helms, and that if Jesse Helms were alive, he'd vote for me. He had me on his radio show. He had me on his radio show today for 45 minutes. And then Stephen, we listened to the rest of the radio show, and all the last 15 minutes was people calling in and saying, that guy made so much sense. And then I was with the 4-star general in Charlotte on last Friday for Veterans Day. And this 4-star general went through all of his progressions in his life. Now I'm not gonna bore you with this, but I'm sort of getting ready because I'm gonna speak to 300 high school students in the morning about the upward mobility and joy of achievement. Some of you have heard the story about the person who walks into Taco Bell Person walks in the Taco Bell and orders $100 worth of food. Now, I know I look like I go to the Taco Bell a lot. I actually don't. Have we ever been to Taco Bell? We've been a lot. They never have coupons.
That's right. Or a briefcase with coupons, right?
Hell yeah.
That's the briefcase.
Hell yeah.
In case you can't tell, that's our son.
Just come out by the kid.
All right. So, orders $100 worth of food. The cashier says, "Will that be for here to go?" And the person who orders the food says, "You don't think I'm going to eat all that here, do you?" And the cashier says, "I don't know your life." My point is, if we're going to rebuild this Republican Party, we can be conservative. We got to explain conservatism so that people can understand it. But we got to also understand we don't know people's lives. Tomorrow, when I speak to all these high school students, many of whom are at risk, I'm going to be suited up. But I'm also going to bring these suits. Because what these suits represent is my life since I was 10 years old. A life that people don't know. A life where people gave me the benefit of the doubt when my mom was making $5,000 a year trying to raise 3 kids. The benefit of the doubt when a route supervisor forged my father's name so that I could have the paper route on Faculty Drive at Wake Forest University, the other Wake Forest.
Show the thing.
Huh?
Show it.
Well, it's going to take too long.
No, it's not. Yeah, I'll hold it up.
Anyway.
Just don't put it on, Roger.
So anyway, so I had a paper route. And when I had that paper route, as you remember, it was the Journal and the Sentinel. So that was there was the morning and the afternoon paper route. And one day I was late getting this professor's paper to them. And I was 10 years old. And he looked at me and, you know, some things people say you never forget. He said, "Let this be the last time anything ever gets between you and your work." He didn't care about my broken chain. He didn't care about anything. He said, "Let this be the last time anything gets between you and your work." So I had the paper route, and then we got evicted near Wake Forest University. We ended up moving over toward Baptist Hospital. They gave me the paper route there at the med school in Twin City, in the Twin Castle Apartments and the nursing school. And when I was delivering papers, I was delivering papers to a place that's still there called Cloverdale Shell. So when I was working at Cloverdale Shell, I was delivering papers, and the guy says, "You know, I can use somebody. This is where you learn. There's always something to clean." How many of you have heard that from your parents?
You got time to lean, you got time to clean.
Yeah, if you got time to lean, you got time to clean. I'm giving you a bunch of wisdom here, Kenny. Okay? If you got time to lean on something, you got time to clean something. So he gave me a job at a service station when I was 12 and a half years old. Now, I didn't have anything to wear. My mom couldn't buy me anything. So this was $10 at Sears and Roebuck. And for a maximum contribution to my campaign tonight, I will get back into this one time.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. But I didn't get this immediately. I got on layaway. Because that's the way I filed things. My first pair of Chuck Taylors were at Bocock Stroud, $1 a week for my paper route. So my point of telling you this story is that while I was working at Cloverdale Shell, the Sims family was patronizing Cloverdale Shell. They owned a place called Peace Good Shops, which you've heard of. So the guy who owns the Peace Good Shop says, when you get old enough to officially work somewhere, like 14, come work for us. So at 14, I was the receiving clerk at Peace Good Shops. And then a person who was at Peace Good Shops ran a place up the street that many of you have been to, Farmer's Dairy Bar, Mayberry's. And there I got a job washing dishes. And that's my dishwashing apron right here. And while I was washing dishes, the manager there said, "You know, would you like to try to be the night cook?" Now, those of you who know anything about Winston-Salem, in 1970s, on a Friday night after a football game, there was nowhere else to go, was there? Stratford Road. You cruise Stratford Road and you end up at the Farmer's Dairy Bar. So when you're the night cook on a Friday night, that's a big deal. You learn two things when you're 15 years old. You never try to put out a grease fire with water. I've never told that story to Bob Luddy at Captive Air, by the way. That's his business, how to put out grease fires. And you never mix ammonium Clorox to clean a bathroom. That's true. But I wanted that bathroom to be clean. Fortunately, I did not do it during the work hours. So I was the night cook at Mayberry's, and then I ended up going to West Forsyth High School, and I got a job at Coca-Cola Bottling Company, where I loaded trucks. I was asked by a high schooler the other day if I've ever lifted weights, and I said, not the kind you think of. And while I was at Coca-Cola Bottling Company, I started being a motorcycle mechanic, so for 10 years, I worked at a motorcycle shop, and then I was a garbage collector, rolling these 2 big orange barrels, old school garbage collecting. And then you roll them and you lift them up into a Heil side loader. So the person I was working for at the garbage company said, it's time for you to go. I was helping support my mom, was working 3 jobs, barely getting by. And I said, go where? He said, you're too smart but too stubborn. You need to go get an education. So this is what I'm getting ready to talk about. I'm getting ready to talk about, you're going to have a governor who's going to understand that in some people's lives every day, the state employees are the most important person in their life. To advance in what he does every day at the city, the most important person in a person's life can be him when he fixes their systems, right? And so I went to Winston-Salem State. I barely had gotten out of high school. I left high school every day at 10 o'clock. When I was at high school, I went and inquired about something called an AP course. You young folks know exactly what those things are. My guidance counselor came back and said, we think based on your grades and your performance that you'd be better suited applying for a job at the A&P grocery store, bagging groceries, not taking an AP course. Now, the reason I saying that is it never really dawned on me what that meant. But I will tell you, as your governor, we're going to fight all kinds of bigotry. We're going to fight all kinds of bullying. But we're also going to fight the bigotry of low expectations that exist in our public schools today. So when I started working at Winston-Salem State, taking class at Winston-Salem State, this is the uniform I wore from Honda Winston-Salem. So when I went to class every day at Winston-Salem State or UNCG, I wore whatever uniform or whatever job I was coming from or going to. My point of saying all this to you is that you may have thought you knew my life, but now you really know the blood that runs through me. And Colonel, what I was trying to get to a few moments ago about what the 4-star said is that every part of his progression to be a 4-star general, he looked at something and said, I think I can do that. I think I can do that. I think I can do that. And I'll tell you, in all this progression of all these jobs that I've had, including being the keeper of your public purse, I wasn't the smartest, I wasn't the tallest or the loudest or the wealthiest, and I'm not that in this governor's race either. But I think I can do that. I think I can create a culture at the CEO level of the state of North Carolina of conservatism, common sense, courtesy, and humility and humanity. I think I can do that. What that's going to result in is a better managed North Carolina Department of Transportation, a better managed DMV. And for all the frustration that people have about DMV, I was going to say this, I'll say it loudly. Once you actually get into a DMV office, get beyond everything, the structure that they created to keep you from actually getting in there, but once you get in a DMV office, I find the people to be incredibly nice and helpful. DHHS, Board of Elections, Cultural Resources, the Crime and Public Safety. Our crime lab's a mess. The crime lab is not under the governor, but I'm going to tell you that as your governor, I'm going to pull Elon Musk. If you don't know this story, when Elon Musk was fearful of not hitting his production numbers on the Tesla Model 3, he brought a sleeping bag in, and he slept under the assembly line until they got the job done. You have a crime lab in this state right now who has been telling sheriffs not to send samples to the crime lab because they're so backlogged unless you have a suspect. Isn't that the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard? That's why you send samples to the crime lab. My point of telling you all this is that I look forward to your prayers, I look forward to your votes, and I look forward to your financial support. And I will tell you as your next governor that I will have a relationship with the grassroots. And people in this room who know me know that when I say I'm going to do something, if it's humanly possible, I do it. And secondly, going back to what I said before, I think this is the last opportunity based on voter registration to have a Republican governor. I think with the right Republican leadership, we probably will have a Republican governor for the rest of my lifetime. Because people are so exhausted and people are so thirsty for someone who can just attack problems, not attack people. I'll take any questions you might have, but there's two final things I'd like to say. Number one is that we're going to work on energy independence. One of the biggest, most tragic things, not compared to the tragedy we're seeing in Israel right now, is the fact that this Atlantic Coast pipeline did not bring low-cost natural gas to eastern North Carolina. Now, Governor Cooper was in favor of this pipeline when it had a $50 million slush fund attached to it. This pipeline is not being built. We cannot be the #1 state for business 2 years in a row, the 9th most populous state, the 3rd fastest growing state in this country, and be dependent on one pipeline. We can't do that. So our start is something called the Southgate Pipeline. This is the Joe Manchin Pipeline. This is bringing the natural gas from West Virginia to Chatham, Virginia. And then this Burgundy represents this 83 miles to bring it from Chatham, Virginia to Reedsville, Greensboro, and Mebane. We have to get energy independence into our state. We have to figure out, especially with what Duke Power is doing right now, by trying to build these miniature nuclear power plants. You know, as much as people talk and complain about France, they don't have a carbon problem. Because 98% of their electricity is produced by nuclear energy. Now, I was just visiting the other day. I don't drink, but I was visiting with Oscar Wong, who's a supporter of mine, who started the craft brewing industry in Asheville, Howland Brewing Company. He used to be a nuclear physicist, believe it or not. And we were talking about something, and it just happened to me earlier this year, where the battery in my motorcycle did not have enough juice to power my motorcycle, but it had enough juice to power my riding lawnmower. So, Mr. Knott, I took the battery out of the motorcycle and put it in the riding lawnmower, and that's exactly what they do in France with nuclear fuel rods, and that's why they don't have a Yucca Mountain. They take these big, powerful nuclear fuel rods, and then they use all the energy out of them, and then when it no longer works in a power plant, then they give it to Nucor Steel. And then Nucor Steel will use it until there's nothing much left of it, and then it'll give it to an end user. So at the end of the day, these nuclear fuel rods have no waste at all. My point of saying this to you, in order for this state to be energy independent and get low-cost energy to eastern North Carolina, we got to think inside the box, outside the box, and on both sides of the box. And the last thing is this. Leading up to 2010, this is the debt trajectory of North Carolina. Since 2010, this is now the debt trajectory of North Carolina. So, if you need one example of how to explain conservatism to people, this is the difference in us and this is the difference in them. As a matter of fact, Chad, I'm reporting, some of you have heard me say this, a 60% reduction in our state debt over 8 years. You know, I can't wait to see Governor DeSantis sometime and I say, you know, you can brag about 25% all day long in Florida. We're at 60. 60% of reduction in state debt because the taxpayers in this room, the employers in this room, and the General Assembly, past and present, Jim Crawford being one of those, who balanced their budget, built surplus, and established rainy day funds. The last thing I'm gonna say about this chart is that this chart now reminds you of the debt trajectory of the United States of America. And in case you haven't heard it lately, I'm gonna make it mathematical for you. The national debt is the single biggest national security issue of my lifetime. We are going to pay more in interest this year than your military budget. I'm standing here as the keeper of your public purse, the State Treasurer of North Carolina, who manages one of the largest pools of public money in the world. Our bond rating is higher than your federal government. That's great for us. It's bad for them. It's bad for our country. And the reason that our country was downgraded is when the rating agency said, there was another downgrade coming, by the way, because they have a lot to do with rating agencies. Another one's coming, and the reason they downgraded is said because of the incompetence and the inability to govern. Now, if I lose some more votes based on this, so be it. But it's so funny how God made our hand that anytime you point a finger at someone, there are three more pointing back at you. This federal debt situation is the responsibility of both political parties. They're equally to blame for this situation. And all of you have heard this saying called State of the Union. As your next governor, it's going to be States of the Union. When you have a federal government that cannot balance its budget, cannot live within its means, cannot break its addiction for money, and is causing the inflation that is particularly harmful to low and fixed income people in this state, it's the states that are going to have to figure this out. It's the governors who are going to figure this out. And as I said earlier, I'm not the IQ person. I'm not the most rageful person. I'm not the biggest or tallest or wealthiest in the governor's race. But I'm someone who knows how to ask the right questions to protect our citizens, our economy, our border, our kids, and everything else from Washington, D.C.'s ineptness. I said this, and I'll say it in closing. 8 years ago, when I asked for this county and other counties to support me to be the keeper of the public purse, I'd just like to remind you, as you've all made the choice to come out here tonight, that when those 5 big counties got reported in, I was 250,000 votes behind. By the time they all got there, thanks to Granville counties and other counties, I won by 278,000 votes. So if you ever question the choice you made to come out here tonight and to hear these candidates talk, I never want you to underestimate the importance of counties like Granville. As I said earlier, I look forward to your support, your prayers, your contributions, and I will tell you, as the next governor of North Carolina, I will be the leader of the Republican Party. I will show up and talk to the grassroots about what they're dealing with, and I will, thank you, and I will protect our state, and it will be states of the union versus state of the union. If there's time for questions, I'll be glad to take your questions.
Anybody have any questions for Treasurer Folwell? Quickly.
Okay, quick. I'm really glad and honored to say this because I've been working for the state for 23 years, 8 years at Central Prison. I'm a nurse. I worked at Central Prison for 8 years, 15 years in the hospital in Partner, and every time we got an email, our CEO, Dale, I would only say your name, Dale Powell.
Now you say Dale, yeah. Can I hear it one time?
Dale, yeah.
Can you hear
But anyway, we just have our health insurance enrollment,
Health insurance.
Show your name, Dale Powell, or after I'm going to work tonight, I see your email again. I'm a nurse that in Butler, Central, we used to be announced and Dorothy School, I'm sure you're aware of that. I admire your calmness. You know, I've been in America for 30 years, so I observe how life. It just reminds me exactly what you said. It reminds me of Jesse Helms. Jesse Helms is so calm. I remember when him and Ted Kennedy batted each other, and Jesse Helms don't change until she died. I remember when Lord Fairclough, that's back in the days. It reminds me of your calmness, calmness with courage. That's Jesse Helms like that, and get things done. It never changes. But I think sometimes there's some your courage, rage, I think there's some personality that fit to that, like of course Trump is blah blah blah, and so I think it's not fit. I mean, but it does not mean we don't get things like Teddy Roosevelt. Those were hyper question is, I think you're getting into a primary, okay? No. So just in case.
Unless he doesn't file.
Just in case, I know, I need to talk to you about my pension.
All right,
Do you have a question? Do you have a question, Omar?
My question is, if, for example, another candidate, a Republican candidate, I'm not gonna name names, win the primary, he still gonna support and
Sure.
support that candidate, right?
Well, let me just say a couple things. Number one, because Vance and I talked about this earlier, I'm not gonna be the treasurer anymore. There are some people in the other camps who are trying to convince people not to vote for Dale Folwell because he can still be the treasurer.
That's not how that works.
That's false. You cannot dual file in this state. And as I was talking earlier, you know, when you're a former motorcycle mechanic, an accomplishment is an accomplishment for as long as it lasts. There's no room for error. And we have fixed, not exactly your question, but we have fixed the treasurer's office with the reduction of Wall Street fees, the freezing of your premiums, the lowering of all this stuff. We have fixed it so that nobody's gonna be able to mess it up, in my opinion. Number one. Number two, I'm gonna win the primary. The numbers don't show that.
Yeah.
Thank you. But the numbers don't show that. But every time that I'm actually in front of people, and I can't get in front of 10 million people, but there are ways to do that. People are exhausted and they want someone who will just speak to them like adults, and what they hear makes common sense. And thank you for being a public service.
I own a Harley, by the way.
Well, I've got a 180/80/16 brand new rear tire for one of those that I'll sell you.
We got time for one more question.
I have a quick question for
Yes.
you. You talked about DHSS, and, you know, in every county there's a DSS. We're in Person County, I've been doing some philanthropic work as a response to DSS issues. And to be honest, it's a cesspool. Well, how are you gonna clean up that agency, and how will that, how will you clean that up, and how will that sort of flow to the counties?
Sure. DSS is a mess. We just lost a $30 million lawsuit in Cherokee County, not Cherokee where the Harris is, Cherokee County, Murphy, North Carolina.
Right.
Yeah.
And by the way, when you're in Murphy, North Carolina, you can get to Tallahassee, Florida quicker than you can get to Raleigh.
That's it.
From Murphy, that's how, these statewide candidates here, you need to understand how big this state is. You can get to Tallahassee, Florida quicker than you can Raleigh from Murphy. They just lost a $30 million lawsuit because of one foster kid case.
And that's what I'm dealing with.
And it is happening all across the state, and it has the potential of bankrupting Cherokee County, this one case. Now they've got a officer-involved shooting, which is even, don't know where that's going to end up. You can go to YouTube and watch this. But this is horrible. Now, we have something called the State Personnel Act in the state government. The state, we have two kinds of employees, SPA employees and exempt employees. Exempt employees work at the pleasure of whoever they work for. But the majority of people are State Personnel Act people. And the culture that I created at DES, excuse me, it's too many D's here. I'm Dale, by the way. The culture that I've tried to create is when I tried our HR directors, because everybody's afraid of telling somebody how bad someone is. So I've asked my HR directors, when it comes to hiring somebody from another state agency, I want you to ask them 3 questions. If you had a chance to rehire them, would you? If they didn't show up for work for 30 days, would you miss them? And did they negatively affect the productivity and morale of people around them? So the lawyers are not going to tell me I can't ask those 3 questions. But I believe, after being the Assistant Secretary of Commerce and as the keeper of the public purse, I believe there's so much wisdom, there's so much good-heartedness among state employees who actually want to fix these problems that I'm very optimistic about doing so. Now, I used to carry a bowling pin around. I'm sorry I'm taking too long to explain this, but I used to carry a bowling pin around. I'm a motorcycle racer. I'm not a bowler, but those of you who are in bowling know that you don't have a ball for every pin. You have to hit a pin in a certain way. A pin is a problem, so that it knocks down 10 other problems at once. And that's how you change the culture of state government. I also want to say this about these issues. I was asked by either the New York Times or one of the major publications, I do a lot of interviews every day, what are you going to do as the governor? I said, I'm going to be the best governor money can't buy. And we're going to answer our telephones. Is that it? I said, that's it. Like Vance and other people in this room know, until you answer your telephone, you don't hear from the customer. If you can't hear from the customer, you don't know what the problem is. If you don't know what the problem is, you don't know how to fix it. And then sometimes the customer will actually give you a great idea about how to fix something that can change things in a dime, which is exactly what we did at the unemployment agency, which led to paying off $2.7 billion of unemployment debt and building $1 billion surplus in 31 months. Never happened in the history of the United States. Part of that was not just on the General Assembly or the taxpayers in this room, but part of that was actually listening to state employees about good ideas that they had to fix these things, and no one ever listened to them. So that's how I intend to attack the problems at DSS. So we have some things in the back. I hope you'll take some. We have Dale Yes stickers. We have some contribution. We have some contribution envelopes that cost 8 cents a piece. So if you're going to use it as a toothpick, AJ.
Thank you.
There's
Before you
toothpick.
go,
Yeah.
talk quick about your battle with COVID. It's an amazing story.
Yeah.
Real quick.
I was, for some people, I was patient zero with COVID. So this is March of 20. And I'm glad Stephen's not in here. They were planning my funeral. Now, I'm not a doctor, but my initials are Dr. Folwell. Just one little period away from being Dr. Folwell. Just move that period over. I'm not a doctor, but I know enough to know that when your blood oxygen level is 82 and you're consuming 8 liters of oxygen in intensive care, and when Cynthia gets one 10-minute phone call every morning where they say, we cannot give you any hope. So I'm only standing here but for the prayers, the hard work of the people who actually do the work in healthcare, and the grace of God. I fought twice from being ventilated. In March of 20, if they would have ventilated me, I would not be standing here. Colonel, I got a text message from a person, I still don't know who it is. They said, Mr. Treasurer, I heard that you're in intensive care with, this is March of 20. March of 20. I heard that you were in intensive care and I need to ask you some personal questions. Don't know who it was. Still don't know who it was. I said, okay, texted back because all I had was my cell phone. And by the way, Governor Cooper and some of his people tried to get me removed from the Treasury for being incapacitated when I had COVID in March of 20 because he would get to appoint the replacement by the Constitution. So they asked me the question. They said, what's your blood oxygen level? How much oxygen you're on? And they asked me about my body mass index. Sorry, this is getting ready to be funny, so I want you to laugh. One of the first executive orders I'm going to sign as your governor is we're going to have a body mass index for Scottish people. Anybody in this room who has Scottish or Irish in their blood, that thing don't work for us, does it? Right?
No, it does not.
It does. Thank you, Chad. Dale, yeah. Because then, and as I'm standing here now, I'm obese. I'm obese by the body mass index. So he asked the person, I don't know if he or she asked me, blood oxygen level, body mass index, and how much oxygen I was intaking. The person texted me back and they said, what's your blood type? No one in this room or nobody in this country knew anything about blood type and COVID in March of 20. You learned about that later on that year. And I typed back and I said A negative. He said, I'm one of the leading anesthesiologists in the United States. And I want to tell you that no man in your condition has walked out of a hospital. Whatever you do, don't let them ventilate you. Cynthia took me to the hospital Sunday morning. I was in emergency room for 28 minutes. While I was on the elevator, they gave me Z-Pack and hydrochloroquine. March of 20. Went right to ICU. My bed was aiming toward Cloverdale Shell and the nursing school that I used to deliver papers to. But that's where all the
Christmas story.
yeah. Well, and you're talking about Hardee's now. That's where all the data about. So I started analyzing the data. Shocking, right? So I would analyze the data, and my blood oxygen level would fall. They turned my bed around on Monday morning. Now you know the reason that they had my bed facing the other direction? Because they didn't want to see people to see how many gurneys were coming down the hallway with sheets over their heads in March of 20. So they turned my bed around. So I was able to figure out what was going on. And back then there was a little foyer, and they had an ante room. So anytime anybody came in to do anything for me, they had to suit up, complete hazmat. So I knew what ventilators were. I knew what this person had texted me. I knew what the protocol was when getting ready to ventilate somebody. And at 2 a.m. in the morning, on Tuesday morning, I woke up, and all I could think about was that scene from Timothy Robbins and Morgan Freeman from The Shawshank Redemption. And I said, Dale, it's time for you to get on with living or get on with dying. Because that's what's getting ready to happen to you. So from that moment at 2 o'clock that morning, I decided to, as I do when I race motorcycles, slow my breathing down as if I was trying to breathe in all of Cynthia's beautiful flowers, and exhale as if I wanted to blow out 62 birthday candles on my next birthday. And that, in the grace of God and blessings, my blood oxygen levels started going up, and they started turning down my oxygen. So 7 months later, because I'm an inquisitive person, I met with the head of ICU in Davis Chapel, where I spent most of my childhood in Davis Chapel, which was connected to the switchboard where my mother used to work. And I said, you know, there's no liability here, but I'd just like to ask you, what was the protocol for ventilating someone in March of 20? The protocol was 5 liters of oxygen and 86 blood oxygen level. So I'd blown through both of those protocols. And I said, there's no issues here, but I'm just curious why you didn't ventilate me, try harder to ventilate me. He said, you were too alert. I said, what do you mean? He said, you could tell us how many times the emergency room of the Baptist Hospital had moved in the last 47 years. You could tell us what vegetables, entrees, and bread used to sell for at the cafeteria downstairs in the 60s. You could tell us how many different barbers there were at the Baptist Hospital in the last 25 years. You could tell us which of your middle school professors, teachers would pick you up and switch the license plate on their car during the oil embargo so they could buy gas every day. Because back then you had odd and evens. And he said, and I said, what do you mean? He said, there's no way with someone with a blood oxygen level of 82 consuming 8 liters of oxygen, you should be talking out of your head. And we decided not to push harder to ventilate you because you were too alert. So I guess a while later, Stephen and Anna and my wife Cynthia, they were in New York celebrating St. Patrick's Day. Now, they were singing, and they're all singers, and they're musicians, and they may have had a beer or two, I'm not sure, I wasn't there. But they decided at that moment what to put on our headstones. So on Cynthia's headstone, and she's going to be a great first lady, and we have a letter out there about what it's been like to be married to me for the last 35 years. I recommend you read it. So what we decided to put on Cynthia's headstone, and this is why she's going to be a great first lady, is she was low maintenance, but sometimes enjoyed high living. And what they're gonna put on my headstone is, he was alert the whole time.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, our treasurer Dale Folwell, one more time. Absolutely. Don't go nowhere. We're getting ready to raffle off something, are we not?
Yes, we are.
All right.
All right.
Who's raffling off?
So everybody, you have one last chance to purchase a raffle entry. If you would so desire, they're $10 each or 25 for 3. Anybody want? Going once, going twice. We are raffling off a,
Close the raffle.
close the raffle?
Yeah, the raffle's closed.
We're raffling off an AR-15.
Yeah, it's closed.
And it's right there.
Yeah. They closed that an hour ago.
All right. Magic click. Let's go, Mike. Magic click. Let's do it.
Here it comes. This is super exciting.
All right. Let's see what we get.
DeVan Barber! Congratulations, DeVan Barber.
DeVan Barber wins it.
Look at her face, she's like, oh, no.
DeVan, would you like to donate that back to the club?
Absolutely.
Spin it again.
Thank you so much. We'll spin it again, DeVan. Yeah, you did. All right.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, in the immortal words of Russell Simmons, thank you for coming out. God bless you. Good night.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for coming. Thanks to all the candidates. And thanks for the folks from other counties. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Hey, I'm there.
Thank you so much. Thanks for coming out. Great job. Thank you. Awesome, man. It's well, look at this very good venue. It's really nice. It's got a, you did? Super nice. Congratulations. Good. You've contributed enough. That's exciting. I don't know, I have no idea. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm excited. Yes. I'm pumped for you, man. That's great.
Anytime I used to call anybody,
That's awesome. So great. And thank you so much for making the drive. This is a long drive. Thank you.
yeah, that's right. I worked backwards for you.
I know, right? Thank you.
Congratulations. And I would like to,
Yeah. Yeah, yours is gonna be real fun.
How about that?
That's awesome. Yeah, that's all you gotta do. We're signing these. We're about to sign. We got the.
I carried a 3x5 years.
It's gonna pick up people that can see. Yeah, we didn't know we had it. We'll get.
What? That's it?
I'm thinking this is like.
She's okay.
I mean, I think we should do that. I mean, don't you think? Like above the big round, you know?
That's what I'm thinking. So the sign, so the signs but the sign, it's not an you can put a light bulb sign. I know the electric is I don't know though, or maybe it's not, maybe it's like here, and the sign is here, there's lights in here, outside of it. You gotta go look. Yeah, right, I'm really sorry. Really sorry. No, I'll make sure that I send it out. Sorry, nice to meet you. All right, see you. This? I'm gonna post it on our,
Okay, so